The death toll from the weekend school bombing in Afghanistan has risen to at least 53 people. Most of the victims were young schoolgirls. On Saturday, a car bomb exploded outside of the school in Kabul. 2 more bombs went off as students ran from the building. The attack is just the latest act of violence in Afghanistan in the weeks after the U.S. announced its troop withdrawal from the country. There has been no claim of responsibility for the bombing, but the Taliban has declared a ceasefire to mark the end of Ramadan. We want to turn now to CBS News foreign correspondent Charlie D'Agata, who is in Kabul. Hi, Charlie. So you went to a hospital where some of the surviving students are recovering. Tell us about what you saw and what the victims and their families told you.
Well, Tanya, in a word, it was heartbreaking. Sadly, I've been to enough of these events, enough of these attacks, but you never get used to it. So we saw teenage girls, some who were going to make it, some who clearly were not. The hospital was understaffed. There was one young lady with a head injury, and she had suffered so much brain damage that she was not going to come out of that. There was another woman, a young lady, she was 14 years old, and you could see the injuries that she had had, the internal injuries. The doctors were hoping that she was going to pull through. Her name was Miriam. They said she probably has a 50-50 chance of pulling through. And other young women, the majority of the victims, the majority of the survivors in that hospital were young women. These were the schoolgirls who went to that school and were attacked. And it really came down to fate. We spoke to this girl, Zainab, who just happened to be staying a little bit later at the library, and she was behind her friends. So when the school bell rang, all the children ran out into the streets. You know, they wanted to rush home. It's Ramadan here. They wanted to get home for their iftar meal. She was lagging behind, but because she was just a few seconds behind, it probably meant that she survived. She said there was this huge explosion. The way she described it, she said it came from the ground and the sky. And she had a shrapnel wound that went right into her arm. And she said she hadn't even realized that she was bleeding until after she had run away to escape. We asked her about her friends. She said she didn't know where they were, but I also asked her whether she would go back to school if she could. She said, yes, I have to. If I'm afraid, then they will stop me from going to school.
Charlie, it's so heartbreaking to hear that these school children, these schoolgirls were targeted. You know, Afghanistan has, of course, dealt with attacks on a frighteningly frequent basis, as you know all too well. But this one just seems different. The fact that the victims were so young, so hopeful, they were girls. You know, are more people outraged at this because most of the civilians targeted were children?
Yeah, you know, there really is outrage. And it's a sad reality here that they're used to these kind of attacks. They're used to the car bombs, the suicide car bombs. They happen on a relatively weekly basis. There's a lot of fighting going on between the Taliban and Afghan forces out in the provinces and not far from Kabul itself. But this wasn't a symbolic attack on a school, taking down a building or even hitting a hospital, which has been done before. This was cynically timed. The Interior Ministry told us that a car bomb that was sitting outside the school gates, as soon as the school bell rang and the kids rushed into the street, the bomb went off. There were 2 IEDs, homemade bombs, that were hidden in the street that then went off after that. And dozens of children, dozens of teenage girls were killed. This wasn't just a symbolic attack trying to intimidate girls from going to school. This was meant to kill and maim as many schoolgirls as they possibly could. And that has caused outrage here, because when you speak to Afghans, they understand there's a conflict going on. They understand the Taliban is fighting. But what kind of vicious person kills innocent schoolgirls? And that is beyond the pale. No target is off limits for these terrorists.
It is horrifying. And Charlie, what is the latest you are hearing in terms of a claim of responsibility? The government, of course, is placing blame on the Taliban, but has the Taliban claimed responsibility or spoken out about this attack at all?
Well, Tanya, you know, it depends on who you believe. So the government is blaming the Taliban for this attack. The Taliban, for what it is, say they have nothing to do with it. In fact, they have condemned the attack. Now, we do know that ISIS, although they are small in number here in Afghanistan, they do attack soft targets. Of course, they go after schools. They're against women going to school, young women going to school. But in addition, they hit a Hazara neighborhood. There's a Muslim Shias they believe are heretics. So whether ISIS was behind the attack or whether it was an offshoot of Taliban that was either involved or engaged with ISIS to conduct this attack, because the Haqqani network, which is a Taliban network that does operate and launches attack against civilians here in Kabul, they are active too. So were they in league? Who will know? Who's going to come up with that in terms of an investigation or in terms of claiming the attack? My hunch is that ISIS was involved at some level because it hits their MO. They've hit hospitals, they've hit schools, and they've hit Hazara communities here several times in the past. But you can't rule out the Haqqani network, which has also hit civilian targets and soft targets here in Kabul.
And Charlie, you recently spoke to a man who said he was willing to, fight himself, to pick up arms and fight himself to defend the Afghani government. Do you believe it's coming to that now after this attack?
Well, this was Ahmad Massoud, and he's the son of Shah Ahmad Massoud, who was the leader of the Northern Alliance. He was assassinated just 2 days before 9/11 here in Afghanistan. So the Taliban knew what was coming. They had to assassinate the strongest leader of their opposition, the resistance. Well, now his son said, these are the only groups that the Taliban are afraid of. They're not afraid of Afghan forces. They're certainly against the Afghan government. So it's not something he wants to see. I have to underline that. Nobody wants to see a civil war here. But if the Afghan forces are incapable of holding off the Taliban, and so far, I have to say there's not a lot of evidence to show that they are going to be able to withstand a countrywide offensive, he has said that there are militias, his own militias, but other militias who are standing by to raise arms in order to protect local communities, in order to protect themselves. They've even called it, in conversation anyway, resistance 2.0. If the government can't stop the Taliban from these territorial gains, they are willing to fight, and they are tens of thousands in numbers. It's the last thing that anyone wants to see, obviously because of the numbers of people that will be killed. It's the last thing the government wants to see. What Ahmad Massoud would like, rather than a civil war, is for the government to show some sort of unity. And if everybody can push behind the government and support Afghan forces, morale will go up, and they have enough resources, even without the United States and international forces here, to take on the Taliban, or at least stand a fight.
Charlie D'Agata in Kabul, thank you so much for your reporting. We really appreciate it.